Well, welcome to the Professional Rule Breaker Show. We have a very special episode today because today it is our 100th episode. Yes, we have done 100 episodes counting today. We're here at the Professional Rule Breaker. We bring these people that have had just amazing success in what it is that they do, and they share their little tidbits with you. So I am so happy that you have taken a part of this, and I'm so grateful to have you as my audience. I hope we have served you well. We have a lot of really exciting things coming up as well. I would say it's been a lot of fun doing this as well. I have met some of the most amazing people, and hopefully you have thought the same as well. Wherever you're listening or watching, that I have brought some really amazing people with amazing tidbits of information, strategies that you can just go ahead and implement in your business right away. So what we're doing today is we're just grabbing a couple of our favorites. I mean, actually, everybody that I have interviewed, they're all my favorites. You're all my favorites if you're listening. And we grabbed a few folks, and we're actually going to do a few of these later on in the year as well, as where we're going to really grab some wonderful ear-catching statements that people have made, things that they've done that really, if you missed it in the first episode, maybe you'll catch it when we replay it, because I think it's important. Some of these messages that some of these people are giving are so profound. I have to say, when I'm interviewing people, a lot of time, I don't know if you've seen me, I lower my head down. I'm taking notes because I want to make sure that I grab something that they have said that is so interesting, something that even I can put in my own business and my own life as well. Because I also think the professional rule breaker, not only are we trying to help you transform your business in the way that you want it to be, but also be able to live the life that you love. So that's what our goal is, and we have so many exciting things coming up for you. But for this particular episode, we have a few folks that we're gonna take a snippet of the interview for you to enjoy again. So the first episode that we're just grabbing a snippet of for you to listen to and grab this little piece of information, again, maybe you might be able to put into your business, is from my friend Kristian Hoenicke. It's episode 86, and it's titled Transforming Side Hustles into Millions. I mean, this man is the king of side hustles, and he truly has transformed his little side hustle into a multi-million dollar business. He's so humble and a really kind man with a funny sense of humor. And one of the things that I really, really loved was how he spoke about how he looks at time and how intentional it is. Like, for example, I think he said something to the effect of, if it's day 3 of the month, 10% of the month is already gone. So he tries to be really intentional, but there's a lot of really good things in that episode. So first off, if you're looking for a side hustle, definitely listen to that. And secondly, there's so many great pieces of wisdom in this episode 86 with Kristian. So enjoy.
Over the years, I'm 46 years old. I'm married. I've got 2 teenage boys. And for anybody that's known me a long time, they know that I'm really, really amazing at failing. I've got that really figured out.
Well, you know what? I think that's a sign of an entrepreneur, though, because if you can't fail and pick
Sure.
yourself up, then what?
Yeah. I guess if you're afraid to take a chance, then, you're just wired differently. And I'm definitely, historically, I haven't been afraid to take a chance. Where it caught up with me ultimately, my wife and I've been married 25 years, and I spent the first 15 or so years, kind of wildly swinging. I was, 19 years old and invincible in my mind for the first 15 years or so of our marriage, my poor wife. And
She's
I
put up with a
tried,
lot then, right?
oh, she has. Oh, she has. Yeah, she should have dumped me a long time ago. I wasn't thinking a lot of the time, so I don't know. I think I can lump my first 15 years in just a few seconds here because the main lesson to learn is if you're something of a blunt instrument like me, I don't have a big brain. You aim me in a direction and I won't stop. My superpower is not stopping.
Okay. You're resilient and you're like, you just go.
Yeah, yeah. But for the first 15 years, I did a bunch of really dumb stuff. What it did to me, though, coming out of those rough years, I had, I think I gained really, really significant clarity on what I value. I wasn't clear. And part of my challenge, I think, in my first 15 years of entrepreneurship was I wasn't clear internally on what I value. So getting beat up for 15 years brought me to the point where I valued things like time. I became hyper aware. I started to become hyper aware. Like, for example, 3 days into a new month, I look at the calendar and I'm consciously telling myself the month is 10% gone. What is the highest and best use of my time for the next hour? And I started to create this thought pattern or something in my head that would help me to focus on high value, impactful things. But in terms of what I value and what I got clarity on, simplicity, that's huge for me. Again,
Keep it
not an
simple.
exercise.
Yeah.
I wasn't blessed with a giant brain.
No, you
When
got
I
to stop
think,
saying that because I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true
well,
because the first thing that you just said is, you literally you set up a habit to win by that thing when you're valuing time.
hmm
And I think that's
hmm
a really great habit.
Okay, so maybe there are some smart little things here and there, but maybe. So I value flexibility. My dad was active duty Air Force 26 years, so my whole growing up, I had lots of gypsy blood. So flexibility, mobility, and then there are other things that work into this. I realized along the way I really detest asking permission. I hate
Mm.
that. I do not want to be in a position where I'm subservient to, somebody that kind of looms over me in the background all the time, telling me what I can or can't do, or when I can do it, or how I can do it. And little things used to drive me nuts. I had a job one time. I was a plumber originally. And if you go way back, there was something that drove me nuts, and it really pushed me
So what was
into
it?
entrepreneurial pursuits. I hate, I hate using public bathrooms. Hate it.
What?
Yeah, and I used to be, I don't have any weird problem or anything like that. I just, well, I have a
That
head, if I
wasn't
have a
where
head
what I
problem,
thought you were going to say at all.
it, it's a head problem. It's a head problem I have, but I'm kind of a germaphobe. So the idea of spending decades of my life, the majority of the hours in a week, going to work and sweating and bleeding and in plumbing, I would break fingers. And I really did enjoy, thanks, mom and dad, for raising me this way to value a job done all the way and all that stuff. It felt good to sweat and bleed on one hand. But on the other hand, when I'm out on a job site or something, I have to use these bathrooms. And yeah, I don't want to talk about it. So it was very motivating.
It was interesting that you said one of the things that you hate is asking permission because
hmm
I think that's almost the mantra for today because I did several other podcast recording today. And I think every single person said that about hating
Mm.
to ask permission. So I think that is something that's really common in entrepreneurs.
Yeah, yeah. I've talked with other entrepreneurs. I'm thinking of a good friend right now who has a really bad attitude around this. He's like constantly rebellious. it wasn't that for me. It was this more subtle awareness that if I'm not really careful in my decision making, I felt like I might end up just kind of sleepwalking through life, kind of bumping along, going with the flow. And not that that's wrong or anything. I longed for something different. And I wasn't even looking to conquer the world necessarily. I wanted to be able to be okay and not have to ask permission my whole life. I wanted both of those at the same time.
Hey there, I am so happy to talk about my podcast sponsor for this podcast. So, for everyone that's out there that's looking for a side hustle and loves promoting American jobs and American families, this is the place for you. Go to switchaway.com/rule breaker. And one of my friends will get in touch with you. Okay, so the next clip snippet that we have chosen is from my friend Adam Bird from Heroes Media Group. It is podcast number 84. And it's titled Breaking Rules and Building Dreams. And one of the things that had really, I mean, there were so many great things with Adam, and he's so fun and really an amazing source of information. Has this most amazing group of podcasters in his media group. But one of the things he said that really kind of stuck with me is, are you building someone else's dream, or are you going to be busy building your own dream? So when I heard that, I thought, that's really profound. I almost wish I had heard that when I was in the corporate world and I was working for someone else. So take a listen, because this man is a Mr. Soundbite himself. He always has some good stuff to offer, and I'm sure you're going to really enjoy this snippet. And if you want to hear the full episode, go to episode 84.
I had a good support system. I went to my pop and I asked him, expecting my dad to tell me, you go back to corporate, don't quit your job, go back to corporate, make amends with them, do whatever, work 20 years, retire and die, kind of a thing. We were sitting at a bar having a beer, and he says, I don't think you should go back to corporate.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh my God, like this is not, I'm sitting here expecting you to tell me to go back to corporate and do this and that and whatever. And now you're telling me not to do that. He's like, I believe in you. And that was just like, and that actually, it was a cool thing. It brought our relationship closer. If my dad believed in me, I was like, okay, I'm on to something here. I have to make this work. Like failure is no option. And I'm okay with failure. Don't get me wrong. That's what it was. And for those of you that are listening out there, if you have something that you're passionate about, maybe you have a side gig and eventually you want to make that your full time, keep working at it. But here's the thing. You work that 9 to 5 or whatever it is, you work your 40 hours a week, and at night, put the kids to bed. And from 8 to midnight, guess what you're doing? You're hustling. You're doing your side gig. You're making sure you're creating emails or funnels or whatever it is that your side hustle is. But you're going to put those hours in. If you're passionate enough and you want it bad enough, doesn't matter. Oh, I'm tired the next day. Great. You'll sleep this weekend when you have off.
right, exactly. Or I have a friend that says you can sleep when you're dead.
Yeah.
That's the other thing
Yeah,
as
sleep's
well.
overrated. You only need about 4 hours. No, what are you waiting for?
Yeah,
Right.
it definitely is. At least some days it is, but some days
Yeah.
it's definitely not. But it's so interesting because my mom used to say the same thing too. She's like, you need to quit your job. You're going to die because you are working too hard.
I
And I think she was seeing that even though I was trying to do it all, be the super mom and the super wife and the super salesperson and super employee for my company, at the same time, I wasn't being super for myself
right.
and not feeding your soul. I always say when there's a will, there's a way. I make things non-negotiable. And I think that's kind of what you did, is that you made it non-negotiable that this was going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a choice. Like again, I didn't care what happened to me. It was more about my focus was on my son, who was very young at the time still. And looking back on it, just turned 21. He's in college now. So I look at it like, did I do the right thing? Was it easy? No, it wasn't. It sucked. It going through it, but was it worth it in the end? Oh, I'd do it all over again and twice on Sunday. You have to find I guess really throughout that process too, I found my purpose in life and what I was passionate about. I was passionate about helping other people, and then that passion really became the purpose where now I get to help other people get to where they want to go in the process. You can't do that. I've seen, and there's nothing against, listen, I want to be very clear on something, everybody. I am not against anybody working corporate jobs. I'm not. I believe in that.
Because we need that. We need that.
We need that. There are people that, for me, that didn't work. And here's my thought process on that is I saw a man who means the world to me, worked a corporate job for 29 years, was getting ready to retire, and they forced him into early retirement. And he wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, I've seen the same.
I've seen other people, they get up there and then they give some BS excuse to fire you or let you go so they don't have to pay you your full retirement. That's the ugliness of corporate. I work for myself. Hey, if I want to eat this month, I'm going to bust my butt to make sure, oh, you got a mortgage payment, you got a car payment. I have to work. I don't have a choice. But here's the thing. I can't point the finger at anybody else. I got to look at the man in the mirror every day. And I would rather put it on myself than rely on someone else to say, here's this, here's that, or grow somebody else. You hear that. I know, I'm sure you've heard of this. Are you going to build your own dream or are you going to be busy building somebody else's?
That is the best saying ever. And I think if people take the time to just really ponder that, are you going to be building somebody else's dream or are you going to build your own? Ask yourself that question. Again, don't quit your job. We're not saying quit your job, but ask yourself that question. And I think that statement alone can be a really big driving force, right? Every single day. You can start off the morning because I think it's really important to start off with an intention.
You got to be positive through the process. It's not easy. I think, and the other part of this is being an entrepreneur. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Right.
You have to, there is we've heard of a lot like law of attraction and stuff like that. If you're positive and you put out that positive energy, that it does attract. It seems kind of, some people are kind of wonky, and I'm
a true believer in that.
It really took me a long time to do it. I think as entrepreneurs, though, those that are listening that are current entrepreneurs or you're thinking about starting your own business, you have to be positive and you have to understand that things are going to happen and you're going to have bad days. But here's the cool thing about it is tomorrow is a new day and you get to wake up. And if you're passionate about what it is that you're doing, then it's not really work. It elevates your life so much more doing what you love to do.
Okay, so the next highlight that we're going to do is my friend John R. Miles. And he is the author of a book called Passion Struck. He actually went from being the CIO of Dell Computers to now helping people make a transformation, unlocking the purpose and igniting their intentional life. And he said something that I absolutely love. It is, you are the most amazing person you will ever meet. So I highly encourage you, if you like this snippets from episode 78, and for you to go ahead and listen to the entire episode. And especially if you're looking to shift and reinvent yourself, he truly is the master to help you with that.
The vast majority of us were not angling for the life that we want. And so in this chapter, I really bring out the concept of life crafting. And this is a concept that is deeply rooted in behavior science. I used the conversation that I had on my podcast with Hal Hirschfield, who's a behavior scientist at the Anderson School of Business at UCLA, to discuss what life crafting is. But at its core, it really comes down to what Abraham Maslow said is the story of the human race is the story of men and women selling themselves short. And we end up selling ourselves short because instead of crafting this life, we're constantly comparing ourselves to someone else, to these things that we aspire to be that are typically out of our reach. So for me, it'd be like being a podcaster, yet trying to compare my success to Joe Rogan or Tim Ferriss or Jay Shetty, who have been doing this longer, are much more mature in their practice of it than I'll ever be. Instead of looking at this future self that I want to have and comparing it to the gain that I've made from my previous self, who I used to be, whether that's a week before or a month before or 6 months before or a year before. So it's, how do you create this active process in your life where you do the introspection that you need to understand the innate skills that you only have, that you only possess? Because here's a huge secret for people who are listening. You are the most amazing person that you will ever meet. And the sooner you begin to believing it, the more success you are going to have. But it really entails doing deep introspection into what are the talents that you possess, that you were put on earth to utilize to solve a problem that only you are equipped to solve. And to me, that is the key to finding your purpose and then life crafting the life that you want. That's all about how do you fulfill fixing that problem with your unique skill set.
Well, I can tell you right now, you are resonating with the people that are listening, that are the normal listeners to the Professional Rule Breaker podcast, because that's actually one of the things that I preach, that only you have the gifts and the way about doing things. And I love how you brought up the whole comparison, that it makes people get unhappy because they're looking at all these other people that are really successful. And exactly what you said, those people, it wasn't that they were lucky or anything like that, is that they put in the work. They took the action, whatever it was, and they may have some really unique gifts, and they really drilled down into those and made their path. And I'm always big about telling people to celebrate every day too. So how do you get people over to that mindset to really drill down into their passion?
Well, what ends up happening, and you're absolutely right, and I don't care if you're an executive or you're in the medical profession, you're an attorney, you're a coach, it doesn't matter. I think what ends up happening is the burden of responsibilities. As life progresses, responsibilities accumulate. That could be rent or a mortgage, car payments, family needs. And these financial commitments make it feel like it's impossible to step away from whatever you're doing that feels stable, yet it's unfulfilling. Because this need to maintain and provide a certain lifestyle becomes a chain that ends up limiting your freedom and your choices. And believe me, I was there too. I mean, it is so hard to look at.
I know you and I, ex-corporate, right? We've been there. Yes.
But do you know how many attorneys I talk to who are absolutely miserable? Do you know how many doctors I talk to who are absolutely miserable? It's not just corporate people, but It's because you're living in misalignment to the life that you truly want. And most of us, through our upbringing, were brought up to point our life in a certain direction. But we weren't taught to explore how to find out what our true direction really is. And I think that's one of the biggest gaps that we have, which leads to so many people feeling like their lives are meaningless because they're completely out of whack with that. In what's going on in your heart and your reality are two completely different things. But what I will tell people is that there's an inner voice that's actually telling you the path that you should be on. And I for sure as hell was hearing it, but I think there are two voices that we confront us. One is this voice that's constantly telling us to do the same thing over and over again that we're doing because it's comfortable, and we get in these patterns of just doing the same routines all the time. In the book, I refer to it as let me take this back a step. I hear so many self-improvement people talk about, you're living your life on autopilot. And I think it's the wrong analogy, because when you're living on autopilot, you're still pointing the plane in a direction. You're still striving to reach a destination. I think the better analogy is that so many of us today live our lives as if we're a pinball, and we are the pinball in the game of pinball. And what ends up happening is we're living it unintentionally. We are just bouncing off everything in our life. We're allowing events to happen to us. We're allowing this inner voice to dictate how we're living this life. And we allow all these external influences to influence it, instead of being the player of the game who learns how to control that pinball through the intricacies of life. And that's the gap. But when you start listening to that other inner voice, who is telling you, probably in a way that you can't really understand how you're supposed to get there. So for me, it really started by getting myself into a practice of mindfulness. And for me, my favorite time of the day to do it is I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, because it is the one time of the day where there's absolute peace and quiet. And I just feel like this connection with the world at that time, where I can spend 20 to 30 minutes just in quiet, only hearing the universe kind of speak to me. And it's my time to set my intentions for today.
So again, I want to thank everyone that has been a listener or a watcher, a supporter of our podcasts. We are going to continue to provide really amazing content for you. And I am so grateful that you have taken the time to be in our audience. And I hope that you have learned, at least from every single one of our episodes, one little piece that can help you move to the next level, because that's what the Professional Rule Breaker is all about, is helping individuals and companies and small businesses, entrepreneurs, think about what can you do to move to the next level and help you think outside the box. If there's a problem, how can you go above, around, or below that problem, as well as really just ignite your business and get it to a point where it's where you want to be, and also have the life that you absolutely love. Every one of you that's out there listening have a special talent. I know you've heard me say this. It's like throwing a stone into the stream and causing a ripple effect, that you can change the world only in the way that all those special talents that I know that you have. And so be sure to go out there and make a big difference in the world. And if there's anything that we can do to help you out, go to theprofessionalrulebreaker.com. Check out all our resources. You can also schedule a session with me, a free 20-minute session with me, where I'm going to help you wherever area that you need. But if you need help with sales, I'm going to help you find that low-hanging fruit, move your business to the next level. I'm here to help you out. And that's what we're all about at the Professional Rule Breaker. So again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here for our celebration of our 100th episode. And again, go out there, be fierce, make a difference in the world. And then, of course, break some rules.